Welcome to the Transforming Lives panel podcast. I am one of your hosts, Sharmin, and Mitzy and I are here. And we also have a guest, but customarily, before we begin our podcast, just join us in being grounded and centered so that we can be connected. If you're safe, you can take a deep breath, close your eyes, and just let go of everything that occurred today that did not serve you. Take another deep breath in and out. And as you exhale, just let go of tension, stress, the things you planned to do, the things that didn't go well, and just be present with us for the next 30 to 45 minutes. Take another deep breath in and be present with the breath as you exhale and rejoin us in the room. Thank you. Welcome, Mitzi. How are you?
I'm awesome today, thank you. I hope you are, and I hope our guest and all our listeners are as well.
Okay, perfect. I'm well. And I want to take this time to welcome Karen Shaw. And Karen is a former advertising professional who transitioned her passion for storytelling into a successful career with Picture This Photo Books. With a knack for capturing the romance of memories, Karen creates personalized photo books that preserves life's cherished moments. From advertising to memory curation, she continues to inspire with her dedication to storytelling and creativity. Karen, welcome to the Transforming Lives panel podcast.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me.
And is there anything you would like to add to your bio?
Well, let's see. I was in print advertising, which is what helped me. But the real thing is, I was always creative, but never creative enough to more so than the layperson, but not enough to put a roof over my head. So I ended up in advertising and learned. I learned so much that between being a natural born storyteller and the creativity that really blossomed in advertising, Picture This Photo Books was born.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that and thank you for embracing us with your presence.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. Like I said, thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
Well, I
Now,
have.
see,
Well, I was just gonna say one of the things that reasons why we wanted to have you on is because there are a lot of photo books that you see out there, but they're just the average person kind of clipping their pictures and putting them together. And what you do is so much better and so different. You capture the person's story and the history and the essence, and you put it together in a very unique way. So I'd like you to really sort of talk about what makes your version of a picture book so much different than what people might initially think of, that sort of random pictures that they collect and put into a book like they see online.
Well, I think it starts with the fact that I'm a storyteller by nature as well as by trade. And so everything with me is a story. My whole life is a story. And so when I get your photos, I mean, I ask you to sort them and put them in groupings and put the groupings in consecutive order because I don't know your story and I don't know where it begins and the middle and the end. So I take your photos, I take each photo and I do light retouching on them so that they will pop off the page, and I recrop them. I add color, I take color out. If you have a wire behind you that looks like it's coming out of your head, on the wall or an exit sign or something, I take those out. I clean it up a lot. And so it's really very different than the photo that you give me. And so I do that with every single photo that you give me. And then I have them in the groupings and then I start to design the book. But the conversation I have with you prior to all of that is I ask you about color. What colors do you hate? What colors do you love? What would you prefer? Um, what else do I ask? I don't know. I ask a lot of questions. Right now I can't think of what they are. I just remember that more than anything. Because I design it myself. Once I get your photos and once they're retouched, I do the designing. So I don't want to pick a color that you hate. You know, when you look at the book, you say, oh my God. So I try to steer clear of that. Anyway, every, I don't use a template. And someone once called me the
Mm.
photo whisperer because I say that your photos dictate their place on the page. And so I could never say to you, the cost of the book includes X amount of photos. It's more the pages because I can have pages. I can put one picture that's so spectacular across the whole 2 pages and maybe 1 or 2 page photos embedded in there. And then the next page can have 8 or 10 photos on there. It just depends on what they are and what the story is telling. So every page, every photo is really just for you and just for your story. There are no 2 books that are the same um, because of that, because the photos do dictate their place on the page. It's part of the story and how it's told. So, yeah. And then there's always a surprise on the back cover.
Hmm.
And I like when I can, which is not too often because it's not my story to tell, but when I can, I'll put a little anecdote in there, and that kind of gives the book a new dimension. It's like, you know, that song from high school. You hear the first 3 notes, you haven't even heard the words yet, but you're back in school. That's what those little anecdotes will do. So, yeah, so they are very different. And I always say, you know, that I make them with love. But one of the things that I really love about I love doing my books, but one of the things I really love is when I see somebody see their book for the first time, because I use the expression they bring tears to your eyes and a smile to your lips all at the same time. And it that's the truth. It's not just a saying, it's the truth. So yeah, I love my books.
Wow.
So that's what makes them different. It's all personalized. It's all just for you. And emotion, lots of emotion.
And what
Thank
size books do you typically do? Like, is it like an 8.5 by 11 kind of size?
um
They like smaller books or?
I can show you right now. I did backgrounds with books because people thought I was talking about homemade scrapbooks, and they're not. They're printed, and they're beautifully printed, actually. Um, so there are different sizes and configurations. You have the orange and white one in the upper row is a 6 by 6. The one next to it, the Italy and the I Remember, and those are 8.5 by 8.5. And that's pretty much a basic size that a lot of people like to get. Um, the one in the upper right-hand corner is more of a coffee table book. It's like for weddings. It's maybe major artwork, something very super creative. It's not your vacation to Hawaii or something like that, usually, unless that's what you want. Um, so there are squares and there are vertical, horizontal.
And it
And
looks like they're all hardcover books.
they're not. As a matter of fact, the one right under the logo, Grandma's Recipes, happens to be a soft cover. Yeah, and so you have a lot of options with these books. You have hardcover, soft cover, matte, glossy. The same thing with paper. Now, I was in print advertising for 100 years, and I'm not a maven on paper, but do know the difference between good paper and paper that is not a good quality. And I don't even upgrade it for myself because their paper is a good quality and I'm very happy with it. I love it. So, yeah, so there's all different kinds of options that you have.
So, Karen,
Yeah.
what was that pivotal moment that made you realize you wanted to transition your career from advertising to creating photo books?
Well, I did them for myself. I did them for myself for a long time. And I always loved doing them. And I did them sometimes gifts for people. But I was laid off from advertising, my last agency. And I always say advertising invented ageism. So I really didn't expect them to be banging down my door. And so I said to a friend of mine, well, I don't even know what I'm going to do next. And she said, well, what's your passion? And I said, I love doing my photo books. And she said, well, go ahead. So, so I did. And that's how it started. But the interesting thing is, I had no idea what they did for people. And because for me, I did it for a special birthday party, I did it for vacations, and that was it. And I was in a breakout room, and I was with a bunch of corporate people. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they must have been like one or two lawyers and maybe financial advisors, and then there was me. So when it was my turn, I said I must be the fluff of the group, and everybody laughed. And this one woman sounded like I had offended her, and she said, "You are not the fluff of the group. Do you have any idea what you do for people?" And I didn't. And she started to list it a little bit here and there. And then I started thinking about it, and then I hooked up with a coach, and he just totally rebranded me. He rebranded my company. He took me so far out of my comfort zone, I couldn't find it with my glasses on. And I mean, he taught me. I also have another company. It's not really a company. It's just something that I do. I don't sell anything. It's story time with Karen, and I tell a story. The story is a memory of mine. And so he got me to do that. And now I love it. First I said no, now I love it. Um, and so, yeah, so that's how it all happened. And that's what I learned. And then I learned everything that I do for people, the memories and of your loved ones and family history. I know more about family history because we lost my mother a little too early. And my father, one of his emotions was anger. And he wasn't angry at her. He wasn't angry at God. He was just angry. And so he ripped up every photo in their house. And so, yeah, I think that was the only time I was ever really angry at him. And he was very upset because I had never really been angry at him. And I said, that's my childhood. That's my ancestry. That's my history. So I can't do a family history book. You know, I could do it from my level on with my kids and grandchildren, but I can't do it from there. So it is important to do that. I have a nephew who was a lefty, and when he was a little boy, he thought he was adopted because he was the only lefty in his family. And then one night he found out that I was a lefty. He was so relieved and so happy. And that's what I say that family history does, those books, because then these kids who don't know some of these your aunts and uncles or your great aunts and uncles, they don't know them, and they take a look and say, oh my God, I have his eyes, or I have his smile or her smile. And then they also find out who's a lefty also. So yeah.
Thank
You
you
know,
for that. Oh, sorry, Mitzi. I just want to ask a follow up question because you touched on the importance of what you do and the legacy that is being left behind. Can you elaborate more on that for our listeners? Because most of the digital world that we exist in would not think of the photo book and the importance and the legacy that it's going to be left behind. Can you elaborate on that a little more?
Sure. Talk about legacy. I do a legacy book for grandmas and grandpas, who was grandpa before he was grandpa kind of thing. And I added veterans to it for them to talk about what not only who they were, because it's veterans of all ages, men and women. You don't have to be old to do a legacy book. Um, and to talk about, their life in the military and what they did and who they met and all of that. And it gives those kids in the future bragging rights, oh, I had a hero in my family, Um, One of the things that I always say, and it's on the top of my background here, your phone can't tell your story like my photo book can. Um, which is true, I mean, each one, I have that blue one under the logo is grandma's recipes. Those are my recipes for my grandchildren and my kids. They were so excited. You'd think I gave them something that they would really enjoy, like a toy or whatever. They were thrilled. Now they can make grandma's meatballs. Um, it's very important. It really is. And I mean, I know it, like I said, more than most at this point because I don't have any of those photos at all. So it is very important. Just
Thank
keeps it
you.
keeps your loved ones alive, and you get to see your parents when they were younger, your kids when they were young, I mean, it just brings it all back and it's wonderful. You pick it up at any time. It's not electronic, it's there. It's just there. Turn the page and it's there.
Well, and that's such an important point because, in this digital age, everybody's like, oh, I've got it on my phone, I've got it on my computer. But the reality is, you could lose it from your computer or your the digital or something could happen. And there is still something, it's still why books versus ebooks are popular because there's something about holding it. And there's something about when you're at a family gathering and you can sit down and you can pass the book and look at it together and read the stories and you feel it much
Yeah,
more
yeah,
in a printed book than when you are looking at it on a screen. It evokes a different emotion. And as you say, like when you were sitting there talking about how you didn't have those family pictures and stuff like that, like my heart was just breaking because I've been so blessed. I mean, on both sides of my family, one tree did like a really big deep dive into ancestry. So we go back to like 1649 or something like that on one side of my family and the 1700s on the other side, and I know that that's really rare. And as you say, like learning those things and then all of a sudden finding out the similarities you have with your ancestors through stories and things like that, like it's so empowering
it
and
is. Yeah.
so interesting for people. What are some of the most interesting types of books you've done? Like you mentioned some that you've done some corporate, and you've mentioned legacy books. Like, are there any ones that come to mind that were very unusual types of books that you've done?
Um, One was pandemic poetry. That was that was unusual. Let me think. Not really. What I'm working on now, I have a couple of new niches that I added into the mix, and one is a book for Alzheimer's, one is for autism, and it could be for any special need, actually. Um, and the veterans and the corporate that you mentioned. Yeah, so those are the new special books that I'm working on.
Actually, you brought up a really great point, which is people who have Alzheimer's or dementia, one of the biggest things is being able to see those pictures and things like that can evoke and stir up and help them remember and bring back those memories and that calmness. So like it's a huge tool, I would imagine, in working
Yeah,
with people like that.
yeah. And the interesting thing is, I spoke to somebody in that Alzheimer's community, and I was saying to her, I understand and I know that things don't work logically. Industries don't work logically. Industries work the way they work best for them. And I know this, yet I was doing the book logically for Alzheimer's, and I was going to do this is your sister Mary, this is the house you were brought up in, that sort of thing. And she said, oh no. She said, you don't do that because they'll get so frustrated if they know that's their sister and they don't remember her, or they know that's the house they grew up in and they don't remember it. So they're all generic photos so that when they see it, they'll say, oh, I remember blowing out birthday candles. I remember going to the beach with my family. And you bring back these little snippets of memory. And at some point, there's a clarity that forms, and they look at you and they know who you are. I don't know how long it's going to last. It could be a few minutes, but it's priceless if you're sitting there and they know you. There was a video, and I did a video for this book, and I talked about that video. And in that video, this she was a woman, a young woman who was wearing a bridal dress and a headpiece. And she was in a backyard. I'm not sure if the backyard was a private home or if it was an assisted living type of place. But she's in the backyard, like on a patio, and she's with this older man, and he's her father, and he has Alzheimer's, and he doesn't know who she is. And they're speaking to each other very nicely, calmly, quietly, lovely. And he was an artist, and their daddy-daughter thing was they used to paint together. And so she had a table in front of him with a big pad and some paints and brushes. And he turned around and he sees that, and he picked up the paintbrush and he starts to move it on the paper. And you're watching this video and you see the clarity come into his face. His whole face changes. And he looks at her and he knows who she is. And he said, are you getting married? I'm going to start crying again. I cried when I watched this thing. I cried. He said, are you getting married? And she said, yes. And he said, now? And she said, yes. And she pointed off camera. And they must have had people sitting there in the backyard seated for the ceremony, just in case it worked. And here's a girl who, like every other girl, dreams of her father walking her down the aisle and knows that he's not going to. And all of a sudden, there he is. And they walked off camera, arm in arm, and he walked his daughter down the aisle. Now, we don't know how long that lasted. It may have ended when he got to the end of the aisle. It may have ended a half hour. I don't know. But that's what Picture This photo books will do. So I'm very
Beautiful.
excited about that.
Beautiful. What advice would you give to someone looking to turn their passion into a successful career?
You just have to go for it. I started two businesses. This is a funny story. I started two businesses at the same time. I started photo books and I started for elder care, and I named the company Elder Care 411 because what I did was you would come to me for a resource and I would be able to send you to a resource. And so I did a lot of that. And it took a lot because I had to meet the resource and so I know who would go well with who. You can't have personalities clash and all that. So I did that. And I was on a Zoom with this one woman who was a speech therapist. And I never mixed the two companies. I never had one discussion with both companies, with Picture This photo books and the Eld Care. But somehow or other, and I don't remember how it happened, somehow or other, I started to talk about the books. I don't remember why. She must have said something. And she said, I'm going to stop you right now. She said, "Yes, forget the elder care." He said, your whole expression changed. Your voice changed. Your posture changed. And just everything about you, you lit up and you just started talking faster. And she said, forget the other, because the other, you were just talking to me and telling me, and then all of a sudden this came up and wow. She said, so you just have to go for it. I am probably, other than the least athletic person you would ever know, I'm also the least salesperson you would ever know. If I said to you that I'm selling this pen, it happens to be a brown marker. You can't really see it, but and you said to me, "Oh, that's a pretty color red." I would say, "Yeah," or you'd say, "I don't like brown." I'd say, "Yeah," and put it down. But I can talk about my books forever because I love them. I love them. I love doing them. I love seeing your face when you see your book. Um, I gave it to one as somebody as a birthday gift, and he lived in Florida. And so I said, you cannot open it until your birthday, and I have to be on Zoom when you open it because I wanted to see his face. And that's what we did because when people are far away, if they live near me, I can see it. They come pick it up. But other than that, I don't see it. So doing it on Zoom is always fun. I had a woman this week who all she did was see the file for approval. She hasn't gotten the book yet, sobbing. She was sobbing. Oh my God. And then I told her I have to take the link off that she can't, keep it on. And she was like she was two. Please, I'll be good. Um, yeah, it's amazing. So
I don't know if it was me or if it was someone else, but I remember having a conversation with you way like several years ago when we were in our bang group and having that very conversation with you about the elder thing and saying, but your face lights up when you talk about the picture
yeah,
books and it's like you're a completely different person. Why are you doing the other?
yeah, exactly. So I don't do that anymore. If somebody came to me that they needed somebody, I wouldn't even charge them. I just, we'll put them together with somebody that I know. But yeah, I love them and just follow your passion. I mean, one of the things that I found is at this time, and I don't know why, I can see how I got here. I can see the path that I took, all the good things and the bad things that happened to you that bring you to this place that happened for a reason. Um, and so I'm here and I love them.
It truly is transformational for people when they get one of your picture books and because all of the stories come back to life again for them.
Yeah. I took one of my granddaughters to Italy and we went to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And I see all these older people going up to the top. So I said, oh, okay. So I bought tickets and the top is really very high up there. So uh, we walked inside the tower and I looked around and I said, where's the elevator? And the two of us were hysterical. If I could have put it back in my mouth, I would have. That's how stupid I felt. And so we both laughed about it. And when I did the book, I have some pictures of us there. And there's one picture of the inside of the tower. And underneath that, that's what I mentioned about an anecdote. And underneath that, in three little words, the whole thing is like maybe this big. And it says, where's the elevator? So when I gave her book, she was so excited. She's looking through and she became very nostalgic. Wasn't this wonderful? Wasn't this delicious? Did we have fun and all this? And then all of a sudden she started to laugh. And I said, what's so funny? And she said, where's the elevator? And what happened was it gave the book a new dimension because she read the words, but she heard my voice say it, which put her right back in there. And so when I can, I like to do something like that. Yeah,
That
I
was
can
such
talk
a
about
great
this for
question
days, so
of,
you got to stop me. What?
I was just gonna say, that was such a great question of Sharmin's as to, you know, following your passion and making that transformation because for so many people they look forever and ever trying to find what it is that they're passionate about, but when you find that thing you're passionate about and you focus on it, you make a huge transformation for yourself and for others
Right,
because that passion comes through.
right. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So I'm glad I
Karen,
had
what
something because I used to say I have no hobbies. If I had to retire, well, I don't know. I would shoot myself. I don't know what I would do. So yeah, God bless these books. I love them.
what's your why?
What's my why? Well, I talk about that sometimes, and my why is giving that emotion to people. And that's why I said the two best things that I do in my business. One is when I'm working on the books, I'm in the zone and I'm just in it, and I love it. No matter how many times I noodle and move it a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right and all that, I just love it. I'm never tired from it. I'm never exhausted. But the main thing is seeing people's reactions. That's what I love. I love it. And knowing that they're getting something that is very different, very unique to them.
My final question: what is your most memorable experience with photo books?
Um, well, actually it was more personal. I did a book. It's in the top row on the right-hand side. It says me and you. I have seven grandchildren, and I always I always wanted to have a relationship with them. I never wanted them to ever say, "Oh, my grandmother's coming tomorrow. I can't go out and play. I have to be dressed nice." I didn't want any of that. So for their birthdays, I take them out and we do something special, just the two of us, nobody else, for the day. And we do something super special and we go out for dinner and we talk and we laugh. And they're older now. I mean, we still do that, but now I've heard them talk about it and it's absolutely beautiful. So this was during COVID, and I did that book. So I think it's 12 of us. It's my son and his wife, my daughter and her husband, the seven grandchildren, and me. And each one of us has our own spread, the 2 pages.
Mm.
And the page on the left is them with me alone. The page on the right is all pictures of them as they were growing up and different things that we did together. Every background is different. The only thing that's the same is every one of them had to have hearts on it. So, but they're all very different. And that was an amazing book. But the thing was, I had to send it to them. I couldn't give it to them. It was COVID. And so I said to my daughter, who lives in Florida, my son was different. He lives in the city. So he would come to the house and he would be downstairs on the porch. I would be upstairs on the porch. And so that was different. But in Florida, I couldn't see anything. So we Zoomed. I said, I want to Zoom. Don't FaceTime me with the phone, which is a little picture. I want the whole screen. And I want to see when everybody opens up their book. And that was just mind blowing. They were so excited. First, they thought everybody had their own book. And then they realized that it's one book, but everybody is in it. And they just went, they were laughing, they were screaming, they were crying. There was, look at this, look at this. Oh my God, look at this. It was great. That was great.
Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, you make me want to say, okay, Karen, I need a photo book. But like you, I don't have pictures of childhood. So I can't do the history. I mean, have from adulthood. So thank you so much. And Mitzi, your final question closes out.
Oh, my final question to her, boy, oh boy. Um, when people are putting together the pictures to send to you, what advice do you give them on sort of what types of pictures to collect, or how many pictures to collect, or that kind of stuff?
Well, as I said earlier, I won't tell you how many. There'll be a page that'll have one photo on it. There'll be a page that'll have 10 photos on it. So I can't do that. But I did a video because what I found was that the photo sorting is a roadblock. People don't want to do that. And even when they have good intentions, they say, you know what, Tuesday night I'm going to sit down and do it. My husband's not coming home, the kids will be out. it's going to be quiet. I'll do it. You're not going to do it. You're going to make the phone call to your friend that you haven't spoken to in a week because you're busy, or you're going to watch a movie that your husband doesn't want to watch. It's not going to happen. So my suggestion is you mark it on your calendar. We're creatures of our calendar. We live by our calendar, and put it on your calendar as you would a meeting, and set a timer for however long you want to do it. You want to spend time with a half hour, an hour, whatever it is. And then if you're not finished, you pick another day and you do it. Unless it's time sensitive because it's a birthday coming up or something like that. You can finish it next week. It doesn't matter as long as you, and once you get started, you're going to be anxious to get finished anyway. And then the trick is to put them in groupings. I need them in groupings, and I need the groupings in consecutive order, not necessarily the photos, just the photos in that group, and that group has to be in consecutive order. And it's almost like a deck of cards. You look at the picture and you say yes, no, maybe. You have 3 folders. One's a yes, one's a maybe, one's a no. And you put them in where they belong. When you're finished with that, then you take the maybes out and you look, and you have to make a decision. It's either going to be a yes or it's going to be a no. Once that's done, you get rid of the maybe, you get rid of the no, and you have a yes. And the only thing you would have to go through if you want to is if there are duplicates. You weren't sure, he looks better in this one, I look better in that one, kind of thing. And so you put them both in yes to figure out later. And you can always ask me if you can't make the decision, I'll make the decision. But that's basically how you do it. And it really is, it's fast, it's easy, and it's foolproof. And then when I get them, they're numbered, they're named, and so I know exactly what I'm looking at. And then I have a conversation and I talk about if it's people like a wedding, or I did a 50th wedding anniversary and vow renewal, and it was the whole family. So another thing that I love about it, when it is a family event like that, I get to know more about you. I get to know about your family. I had to find out, these are your grandchildren, these are your children, this is your sister-in-law, and you just get to learn so much about people that you don't know. So yeah, that's how to do it. And I have a video, I'll send it out. 80809. Please.
Thank you so much for helping us show people how they can transform their lives by remembering all of their important memories and putting them into a format that they can touch, feel, see, share, and really stay with them.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. This was great. And it's lovely meeting you, Sharmin. I know Mitzi,
Pleasure.
but I
Thank
never met you. So this was lovely. This was very
Thank you
nice.
so
Thanks,
much.
Mitzi, for asking me.
Thank you.
And thank you for embracing us with your presence.
Oh, well, of course.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Transforming Lives panel podcast. We hope that you receive some nuggets of wisdom and seeds to plant along your journey of transformation. If you enjoyed what you heard today, we encourage you to let us know and to share us with those that matter in your life. If you would like to connect with anyone from the panel or our guest speaker, you can find all of the ways to connect in our show notes. We have so much gratitude for you, and we are so thankful to be a part of your day. Until next time, take great care.